Welcome to Let's Talk with Teresa, and I am your host, and I'm so grateful that you are joining me on my YouTube or my podcast channel. Now, for those of you who don't know, Let's Talk with Teresa Ann is a show about flipping perspective. It's about how can we see things that are negative and not just see them in a positive light, but seeing them with heavenly God perspective to a point where you actually have such wit when it comes to situations that are hard, difficult, insults, whatever it may be. It's so that when we have perspective that's so life-giving, we don't fall prey to offense. We don't fall prey to seeing with lack. Instead, we see with abundance, and we see what we do have instead of what we don't have. So here's what's coming up next on Let's Talk with Teresa Ann. I'm lightly going to cover this as there is so much more to expound on at a later time. But I wanted to talk about giving and receiving. So many of us know that in our giving or in someone giving to us, there is an actual exchange taking place in which the giver is giving to the receiver. However, if the receiver doesn't receive from the giver, then it really just stops at the intentions of the giver. Now, when does the actual activation of the impartation take place? It's when there's the action of actually receiving the gift of impartation. So why am I talking about this right now? Because with situations like this, let's say you know someone, or maybe you are that someone who has stated that someone placed a curse on your life, or someone placed a curse on your family's life. And from that point on, things just never went the right way. There is power to not just the giver, but there's power in receiving. So the actual receiving of the curse is what activated the curse upon that person's life. Just like with a blessing. When you receive a blessing, what happens? It activates the actual blessing. So when we're receiving from God His promises, and we're actually receiving it and believing it because we believe that He has said we're worthy to receive it through Jesus Christ. And when we receive that, there is an impartation that not just the giver is getting to be a part of, but you are a contributing factor to the gift that you've just received. The same thing goes with a curse. The only way the curse can be activated is if you receive it. So here's how you flip the script. You remember the promise of God. In His word in Isaiah, it says this very thing: no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises up against you, that means a curse, a judgment, whatever it is, God will condemn. Because why? You are a heritage of the servant of the Lord. So if you're a heritage of the servant of the Lord, your hand should never be receiving anything but from God. So when the distractions of the enemy come at you and say, look, this is yours. You have to receive this because your family had it. Your family had this. Your family had that. Your family had this disease. Your family had this curse on their life. And you know what? It's just on you. Look, your life is already evidence of the curse. And that's when you get to rise up with truth and say, your faithful promises are our armor and protection. There is no one like you, Lord, and I only receive from you because I know that greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. And Father, you have equipped me with every good gift as you are the Father of every good gift. You do not know how to give anything but good gifts to your children. And so we have no business in receiving from anybody else but you. With that said today, activate the blessings of God on your life by receiving from Him. No longer saying you're not worthy. No longer saying this is undeserved. Of course it's not deserved. Of course we can rightfully so say that we're not worthy. But when God says something, it is the last word. You and your filth do not have the last word on what God proclaims over your life and over my life. So on today's Flipping the Script Monday, let's go about being the light in the midst of darkness. Remember what this show is all about: bold inspiration, revealing God's goodness. I want to say thank you again for joining me on Let's Talk with Teresa Ann, where I love to flip the script in this life. It's all about God's life-giving mindset, overcoming perspective of recognizing the negative things of this world, yet getting to live a life that overcomes evil with doing good. This is how we live a life worth talking about. I also want to thank you in advance for subscribing, sharing, liking, and commenting on my podcast and YouTube channel, as well as rating and reviewing Let's Talk with Teresa Ann via iTunes. Remember what this show is all about: bold inspiration, revealing God's goodness. And while you're at it, all you have to do is simply go to letstalkstudio.com.